this week, week 4, it's going to be our second to last presentation. So next week, we want to congratulate everybody. But in the past, I feel like we've kind of ended things. So we want to make sure everyone has like a good basis for launching off after the challenge. So this week, week 4 is titled Right Outlook. So it kind of helps to tie everything together a little bit from,
Recording in progress.
oops, sorry guys. It
Oh,
helps
that's me. Oops.
all good. Um, so this week ties together the first week, which was Eat Wisely, the second week, which was Connection, and the third week, of course, was Move Naturally that we're coming out of. Of course, these themes all have been kind of intertwining throughout for the reason of coming together at the end. Right outlook, you want to think of the concept of having the right purpose, the right alignment with your goals and your values, but right outlook also has to do a lot with the home and the environment and the systems to which we live within. So you'll see like downshift and purpose as two key pillars within right outlook. Um, However, we've been building upon all of them throughout. So these are just beautiful visuals that I like to just kind of refresh everybody with at the start of each presentation to kind of see what we've been working through, but not past, meaning that we touched on it maybe in week 1 with like the 80% rule, but still to keep mindful of it and to try to incorporate into your day-to-day lifestyle to the best of our abilities. So we're going to go into the point structure because I think it's really important to touch on that. First, though, we want to reflect now that we're coming into the last week of the 30-day challenge and to start to reflect back on that true vitality test, the happiness test, and the purpose check-in, especially when you first started. Because now, as you're coming through it, you want to reflect on the mindset or maybe the actions or the habits we had in place at that time, and then say, okay, throughout this challenge, have I started to make some good strides? Do I want to kind of check in maybe at the end of week 4, like next Monday or Sunday, I should say, and retake these? Or do I want to do it maybe quarterly? What's going to be my plan for myself? And of course, like this is where you started with the original buy-ins. So if you haven't done so already, just of course to make sure it's done. And even if you hadn't done those first 3 key bullets, maybe you do it now and then you focus on, okay, how can I check back in with this platform and this base I've kind of built for myself in 3 to 6 months. So there's always a launching off point and you're always kind of competing with yourself. So this week, the week 4 top 4 in the spreadsheet is to finish and review your purpose statement, even if it was something that you held the prompt up and you read through it and you reflected upon it yourself without, fully writing it out. Maybe the first, week of the challenge, try to do the same method again from like a reflection standpoint, at least during this, final week of the challenge. Of course, it's even better if you can write it out, or I'm a big fan of using the the record section, the voice app on my phone to speak into for notes. So you could always do that too. As every week, we always want to highlight to utilize at least 3 Blue Zones meals this week. This week, because it was the last week, I wanted to really flood it with some extras. So you could see that this packet was a little bit more voluminous than other previous recipe packets. We hope that you found at least, 3 recipes that you really liked each week that maybe if you got to them during the challenge, wonderful. Or if you want to use that to build up your recipe repertoire and keep, maybe on your counter to, pull ideas from once a week before you go grocery shopping. Of course, each week is to be building up that MOI, that walking with a group or a buddy at least once a week. And this week, a newer addition is to designate a space in your home more for like, I call it like your de-stressing space, your quiet space. They call it like a pride shrine in the book. I'm not sure where that quite comes from, but I guess it's a place where you could like sit in your powers, maybe the concept, or pray or meditate, but really just a place designated just to de-stress. That is a space that you try not to bring other stressors into, right? So It could be even just a yoga mat, because having, maybe a whole room or something like that could be a big stretch, or maybe it is a room. That's wonderful. It could be a section of the yard, but we'll build to this later in the presentation. Other ways to boost up your points this week. We could volunteer for a new group or organization. There was some other options added into the week 3 module online on ways you can get more involved. It doesn't always have to be the classic ways. It's finding maybe just new hobbies or leagues you might want to join. Put in a post-it on your mirror with a default purpose. Grow and give could be the mantra. You want to find a mantra that resonates with you. It doesn't have to be the preset Blue Zones grow and give. Sometimes for me, it's just water off a duck's back. If some kind of stressor or something comes my way, how much, do I need to really put my energy or let something really throw me off guard? It's just, divide and conquer, kind of, water off a duck's back. Don't let something kind of stay with you. If it's especially not super positive, just try to move on and grow. It could be something of just a word that resonates with you. It could even just be an image that resonates with you, but something that kind of sets your intention, maybe the start of the day. Some individuals even like to do affirmation cards, something that calls to you. Another way you could boost your points this week, it says enroll in like an automatic savings or investment plan. Do what's best for you. This is really just meant from Blue Zones as a way to keep, stress lower. But of course, we don't want to intertwine with anyone's personal savings or investments. Getting blackout shades or an eye mask to block light while you sleep at night is a way to gain points this week. To try meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, some kind of mind body practice. Another way is to declutter the house, to arrive to all appointments 15 minutes early. It can also give like a nice cushion if you don't already do this, and keep stress lower in your day. Practice active listening to someone with great intention. You could also practice mirroring, like mirroring what someone is saying in these conversations to show that you had, heard what they were conveying to you. And lastly, to gain points this week is to spend at least 2 hours in nature throughout the entire week. So forest bathing, beach walks, garden parks. I'm going to give a little cute bullet list with this week's email after the presentation's done uploading to YouTube, with some fun local activities that are healthy and out in nature, but also fun. While we're talking about points though, and before moving forward, I think it's super important to touch upon the point structure, as some individuals have been struggling. I'm also seeing a message in the chat, so I just want to check in there as well, just to make sure. Oh, what is forest bathing? Great question. We'll get to that later in the presentation too. But so some honorable mentions with regard to the points is Emily and Jane, as well as Carolyn. You were calling yourself out in the group chat, but honestly, you've been picking up the logging, so you are honestly an honorable mention along with Marissa. So this is to highlight that a lot of people are struggling with the logging. So I think something to touch on is, what is success to everybody, right? So I'm going to go back to sharing screen. So success could be, maybe I'm logging and I am hitting those true 100 points per week, right? Or maybe I'm trying to just get more involved in a program and to start walking just once a week. Maybe that is progress to me. So I think with this challenge, something really cool to mention is like you are competing with yourself truly, right? There is no big grand prize at the end. And sometimes I think if there is that little incentive, it creates that extra push. But sometimes that's a false push. And what I mean is, yeah, that can serve people in the beginning, and it's a wonderful thing. Don't get me wrong. Would love to have that ability to have like, oh, you get to 400 points and you win a big screen TV, etc., right? Like that's always a good incentive. But the way you think of those incentives, it's called extrinsic motivators, right? Or it's carrot and the stick, which those are great when starting out. So sometimes I have to place like little things in my calendar, whether it's like a vacation I just want to feel a little bit more comfortable in my body with, right? A dress, or this past weekend I just competed in like a type of race I've never done before, and that was a challenge, that was a stress that if I don't train and keep up with my workouts, I'm not going to have a good time doing this, and I've already invested money in it. But those are all external pushers, right? Like, or we would say like a doctor can be an external pusher, a great one, but still an external pusher saying, say, Susie, your cholesterol is high. Because I'm telling you your cholesterol is high, it might motivate that patient to make changes in their cholesterol, right? Although that's positive and good. You want the individual to be internally motivated, right? So the tracker is a great external motivator because you could be aware of your habits and utilize it to find success. That's great. But some people, that's a great tool. Some people, they feel they might not need it, and that's okay. If you're keeping mindful, you're tracking in other ways, looking at your steps, keeping a food journal, but most importantly is to be aware of your choices and asking yourself, like, what's your why? Is your why coming from within you? Like, I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to be my best self, I want to be my happiest, healthiest self because I want to be like one of these wonderful centenarians living a beautiful, full life, right? Something from the heart, right? So the point structure is a good thing. So if you're struggling to make time, I get it, right? You're on your screen a bunch or you're not used to being on a screen. If that's a habit you want to create, maybe first set like an alarm. Like look realistically at where you might have time in your day and set an alert for yourself. And then if you're getting overwhelmed by maybe the extent of the Excel sheet, right? Because that kind of gets me like, oh my God, there's all these habits to build at once. Maybe pick on that spreadsheet one or two things you really want to hone in on. And then this challenge, even though it's a 30-day thing put together to present all this information, what's great is we have a lifetime to apply it, right? So there is no race. This is a journey of, and I know every millennial wants to say the term journey, right? But this is truly like a journey of self-discovery, of finding how can I include these habits in a way that truly fit me and who I am and what works for me. So, in a long-winded way, make time for the goals that are realistic for you and look objectively at what you can realistically see yourself achieving in, say, 1 to 2 weeks. Can I cut that into bite-sized pieces that I could see myself achieving maybe 85% of the time? So 85% of the time, can I set an alert to go off at 7 o'clock at night for me just to log that I went for a walk today, maybe left my shoes out, and that I cooked a meal that is Blue Zones oriented. And let those three be my main focus. And then do that routinely enough. And then maybe add in another focus. Maybe I'm going to really hone in this week on not eating in front of a screen, right? If you really want to make this like a lifelong thing, that could be the way to do it. But between now and the end of the challenge, if you're really trying to bank in those points, I think what we make time for is what we want to achieve, right? So pick a time, stick to a time, and most importantly, commit to you. Um, if other things are getting in the way, you got to say, okay, what am I making more of a priority than me, right? Because if I don't make time for me, no one's going to make time for me. If I don't do this right now, no one's going to do this for me. Um, I hope that helps. Does anyone have any questions or any thoughts on any of those concepts that we just touched on? All right, awesome, awesome. Yeah, like these are all wonderful, but to me, it's like, all right, maybe I'm going to focus in on three of these guys this week. Like the declutter the home, the meditation space, and then maybe I'm gonna look at like digging up one of my old eye masks, for example, to put through the laundry and start to implement back again into a routine. The setting up your home section of Right Outlook is wonderful. So it kind of allows you to start to explore making your home a conducive space for these goals to make it even easier to maintain or keep the proverbial ball in the air. So it's going to be creating a movement-friendly space, building up a stress-free zone, design a nourishing kitchen, and cultivating a social home are the main pillars within the setting up your home. So creating a movement-friendly space, it could be what calls to you, right? It could be indoors, it could be outdoors, it could be a screen room. It's the environment shapes the habits, meaning when you're leaving the bike out in sight and in mind, when you're leaving the shoes out in sight and in mind, or we have the means within the home for exercise, right? Could just be going out on the lawn and doing some yoga, right? Seeing our home as an environment for exercise, really. I guess it's more the mindset of it allows you to integrate it more into your day-to-day habits. Blue zones will touch upon it in ways not just say for planned exercise. They kind of incorporate it as it's just the way they are, meaning, oh, we just don't tend to have chairs in the home. We take our shoes off and we sit on the floor. Just culturally, it's how we have interacted for years, referring to, say, Okinawa, Japan. So that's one way it helps them with mobility. As I have many patients in the past come in to say, hey, I want to really focus on my health so I could be able to get up and down off the floor with my grandkids, right? So if we're already in a space where that's a movement that is comfortable for us, embracing this kind of concept can help to keep us able in moving up and down off the floor in that regard. The garden can also be a great space, not just psychologically. Oh, I just paused my screen share. Can you guys see my screen? Hmm. Oh, it just
It was
gave
like
me a
frozen.
frozen. Oh,
I
goodness.
didn't know you were moving forward.
Thank you. Let's say, I don't know why it just will randomly pause it. Now let me press resume. Oh, come on.
Emily was on top of it. She pointed it out.
Oh, thank you guys. Thank you. I don't know why Canva does it. I have to like stop share and then it won't let me resume share. So I'm in and out and now I'm pressing resume, but if you can see my screen, it's not acknowledging it. Oh wait, let's see. Oop. Let's do it this way. Percent free. Perfect. Okay, can you see where it says create a movement friendly space with a blue background? Rock and roll. All right, thanks guys. Thank you. Technology. All right. So now the garden, right? We've touched on the garden briefly in the past about it being a de-stressing place. It's also a place that can encourage daily movement. I know for some individuals, the concept of like dumbbells or TRX straps or classic exercise equipment can sometimes have a negative connotation depending on one's exposure and relationship with exercise and physical activity. So the garden can also be a non-threatening, joyful place too for some. I know my dad hates sports and has always been very anti-gym. So for him, as he gets older, he really gets a lot of his activity in the garden, like getting down, weeding, mowing the lawn, gets his steps, carrying mulch and things. It does help him to get some activity in and keep him going. Stairs, walking paths, like we said in the beginning, those who had a tendency to live into being a centenarian, especially from Greece and in Italy, they tended to live in the highest pitch, sorry, the steepest part of the village. So utilizing more of those muscles walking uphill, right? It is a resistance activity, right? These individuals also tend to do lots of yard work or farm work or going to the market, movement heavy chores. Other ways to create more of a movement friendly space is changing the arrangement of the furniture. This can also follow suit in work too. I have one patient, she's so cute. She actually changed the copier in her office to be across the office so she didn't just have to grab it from her desk. She had to physically get up every time she wanted to get something from the copier. Lastly is exercise equipment. I tell my patients I selectively hoard things. I selectively hoard books, exercise equipment, and clothing. So throughout my life, it's just been something that people know I tend to like exercise equipment and have picked it up over the years. It'll be amazing what you could find from TJ Maxx even, just to get your home gym started, whether it's a $12.99 yoga mat, a set of dumbbells. I've even found battle ropes there, like you have at the gym for 30 bucks. Slam balls, medicine balls, Facebook Market can be a great asset. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your friends. People are always, getting rid of things or trying to sell that treadmill that turned into a clothing rack. But if it's conducive for you and if you have, say, the bike in sight and in mind, and it helps you that if you have maybe 45 minutes that you could hop on a stationary bike and do a YouTube class in the morning, but maybe not enough time to get to the gym, having something like that might be a useful tool. But of course, designating an area for stretching or mindful movement can be a good tool. The pool, now that it's the summer, or utilizing the front yard, the backyard, or hey, the people's place, the state and community, state and county parks and town parks, of course, too. So, as you could tell, my Sicilian is showing. Um, so why gardening and grounding, if you guys know the scene I'm referencing. Of course, gardening is linked to a 23% lower risk of dementia, as published by The Lancet in 2016. Of course, we're getting vitamin D, we're getting time outside, movement. It can be distressing, being that we're getting the natural light, the activity, but also, like we touched upon in the past, the phytocyanides that can come from the plants like conifers around us. Gardening can also be a wonderful act, as you could see. Of course, I'm quoting the end scene of The Godfather when he unfortunately passes, but it's highlighting the act of a grandfather eating a healthy Mediterranean meal in the yard, passing down, the act of the olive garden, harvesting olives, excuse me, oranges from the garden, spending time together outside and away from screens. And it's highlighting that true wealth is really like what matters. And this is what Right Outlook is all about. It's not just about, oh, I have this in my home. It's more just as a person aligning to what really matters at the end of the day, right? You got a roof over your head, you got food on your plate, you got loved ones around you, whether it's family or a family you've made of your own, and you're trying to cultivate the earth to make it just a better place than you left it. Um, so that's part of what Right Outlook is about. And it's saying, okay, I have these values of, de-stressing and honoring my body with good food and moving and taking care of my home as it's also a part of my community. It highlights that deeper, what is your purpose? So these are all kind of exterior things that can help to hone in on those more interior things. Of course, gardening is linked with grounding, which is that greater connection with the earth, allowing free electrons from the Earth's surface to help neutralize reactive oxygen species, which help to create free radicals. I say it's just more so calming and aligning. I think it's really great to bookend your day with the garden, like we were saying last time. Start your day with something positive, end your day with something positive. And it's good to take care of something else and to see it growing and turning into something better. Or even it's just the challenge of why won't my, my basil grow, and then trying to figure out, what we could do to put that plant in the best spot to see it grow. So that's also just fun, creative thinking. Building a stress-free zone can be the garden. Oh, some of the pictures did go through. It was showing that it was uploaded or not uploaded. So we try to keep a garden each year. So whether you have a little bit of space or a lot of space, you could always do one of those herb garden trellises that you can see on the bottom. A stress-free zone can involve just time with your pets, right? Having time with your pet in the yard or cuddling with you, watching a movie. But creating this stress-free zone in the house is a place where we're not, bringing work, right? Like I'm not going to bring my cell phone into that space. I'm not going to bring food into that space because we don't want that to be associated with relaxation. And it's more of a sacred space that for you, you go there and people know kind of, you're there at the end of the day, leave you alone for those 10 minutes, set that boundary, and then maybe start to usher into sleep. When you start to do that before bed, it does tell your body to start to release melatonin. When you do this act as a part of your circadian rhythm, and could even help with sleep latency, and which is falling asleep sooner if you do struggle with time it takes to fall asleep. Spots outside the home can also be great, as it can be a privilege to note that having a de-stressing space in the house, right, especially if someone's home life is very stressful. So trying to find that other places, and it could just be a mix. It could be going to local parks. For me, it's the Kings Park Bluff a lot, is a place I like to just go and relax and look at the water. It could even just be going to Robert Moses and watching the waves too. It could be a local fitness center. To me, I describe the gym as the spa, right? You're going there to do something solely for your self-care, similar to like a spa. A spiritual center, it could be a church or a meditation space, a synagogue, what calls to you. It could be your car or your bike, right? It could be, okay, when I'm on my bike, that's my place to just be free and go, right? I'm not going to bring work into that space. I'm not going to be on my bike and on a work call, right? Or it could be your car, right? At the end of the day, if you're one of us that, we're all struggling to make time for ourselves to de-stress, that maybe before you get out of the car going from work, that if you can get 5 minutes that you just listen to a favorite song, or honestly just dead silent, and you just focus on box breathing for a little bit, and then exit the car and go into home mode from work mode to kind of shake it off. It could be that. But I think with all of these things, it's just keeping it on front of mind and making it a priority or a value in your life, and then therefore making you and your loved ones a priority or a value in your life. Designing a nourishing kitchen. So when the environment around us is clean and organized, it can allow ourselves to almost, feel more comfortable to do for ourselves, like make better food choices. I know if my house is more hectic and stuff is everywhere, I'm more likely to be scrambling and grazing and be more everywhere, all over the place with my eating, versus when things are more organized and the table is cleared off, and then we have space to like sit and actually have a meal, right? I have so many patients that will come in and say, can I make it a goal to just clean my kitchen, and then get started with grocery shopping and meal prepping? And absolutely, that is a step, especially if it makes you feel more conducive to have that habit occur. Studies show that visual clutter increases cortisol. I know when I walk into the house and I see a mess, I am just much more stressed and I'm not going to relax as quickly. So, of course, making that a priority, saying maybe Fridays when I get home from work, this is the chore routine I have. On Saturday mornings, this is my routine, and so on and so forth. Creating more structure within the week if we're struggling to get certain things done, or delegating to family members within what's realistic. And then, of course, having like an orderly kitchen can support meal prep, healthier food choices, and that we're not looking to find things, or, oh, shoot, I have two of these because I didn't realize I had one in the baking cabinet and one in the dry cabinet, for example, and can also prevent overbuying and food waste. So clearing the space, of course, to help keep a clear mind and a nourished body. Setting up the fridge, right? I think it's great to do a full fridge wipeout at least once a month, but once a week, I think it's good to just go through your fridge, do a quick scan, shelf by shelf, what stays, what goes. And then, of course, if you do a full clean out and you're focusing on the concept of FIFO, first in, first out, it's going to be easier to keep up with, of course, right? Like when you chip away in small bits each week, it's going to be easier to keep up with. So, of course, the temperature danger zone is typically between 42 degrees and 145 degrees. So you want to keep food under about 42 degrees, ideally to prevent pathogens from growing. anything inside of that is deemed the temperature danger zone, in that if the food's sitting in that environment for 2 to 4 hours or more, there's a greater likelihood of bacteria or fungus or foodborne illness occurring with that food. With cleaning out the fridge and organizing the fridge, you want to think about pre-prepped towards the top. And then, of course, you don't want to have any raw food over any pre-cooked food. So you tend to keep raw food just on top of the crisper here, as you could see. So God forbid it does leak, there's a shelf below it and it's not dripping down onto other food, creating cross contact with potential foodborne illness. Dairy you typically keep on one shelf together, a middle shelf, and then of course pre-prepared foods and ready to eat foods on the very, very top. The crisper with the lower humidity from where your produce on the inside of those drawers. Some other fridges I've noticed do have like a meat drawer almost for like different cheeses and like cold cuts and things. If your fridge does have that, of course, that's wonderful, can help keep things fresher. But cleaning out your fridge once a week can be a good way to keep on top of things. The smaller plates mindset that you see here also helps psychologically to help reduce portion sizes on the plate to help to continue to follow that hara hashibu concept we introduced in the first week. We want to limit processed snacks by keeping them out of sight and out of mind. So on the countertop, you'll see, of course, the recommendation in your previous point structure to keep like a fruit bowl out in sight or in mind, right? So keeping, say, if you want your apples or clementines or oranges or bananas out, that's wonderful, or even avocados, you can keep out on the counter. Keeping that insight in mind might enhance likelihood of grabbing that produce, but also maybe working it into your routine when you come home from the grocery store. You have some of the fruit cut up and put, maybe front and center in that ready to eat section of the fridge, just to help with enhancing grabbing that, making some other goodies like maybe the pistachio halva in the way back, say. Consider where you eat in the home. So try to always focus on sitting down when you eat. It helps with that rest and digest. If we're standing and eating in a quick manner, we're in a more stressed out space. We're more likely to have bloating and indigestion when that happens, but also not take in the full totality of the portion or what we ate or have full satisfaction psychologically with that meal, to then maybe be more likely to go off and graze or grab other foods moments later or in time to come. Considering where you eat too, I've had some individuals, bring food into their bedroom or say bring food into what we would call like that de-stressing space. We don't want to associate food with de-stressing, right? Or some of us with food in the bed, we want to think of the bed for two things, sleep and what. We don't want to bring food there and have those associations. So associating the kitchen table with a meal, trying to really keep food out of the den and off the couch and keeping it less associated with the screen or the TV, which just encourages mindless eating. Some people like to clean and organize the fridge before they grocery shop. I like it because it helps me to see what do I have, so I don't buy two things of ground turkey again, because I swear that's happened too many times and I don't want that happening. Of course, you could always freeze things if you buy extra, but look at what you have before you go. Double check your dry storage cabinets. Try to have a home for everything. Maybe you focus on tackling one cabinet or one drawer at a time. But if you have a home for things, it's really easy to see in a fast and efficient manner what you have, what you don't have in your pantry staples to further assist meal prep. So what is meal prepping? Meal prepping is just preparing meals or snacks in advance for a future time period. There's no set time period, there's no set allotment of those meals or snacks. So we could be planning or cooking meals for 4 days from now or a snack for 2 hours from now. Of course, when we're meal prepping and planning and working this into our day-to-day strategies from a modern standpoint, it could help us to save money, save time, help with maintaining a healthy lifestyle, but more importantly, from a bigger blue zone standpoint, help us to achieve those, blue zones foods more in our diet, have those vegetables more readily available, have those seafood sources more accessible in our diet and prepared. Just easy examples. So when we're starting out, meal preparation is a spectrum, like I was saying. We could be all the way at one end of the spectrum that, hey, I'm lucky if I'm, thinking 2 hours ahead, to the person who plans every little thing and for the week ahead. There is no right or wrong. It's a matter of what works best for you and maintaining a lower stress lifestyle and also maintaining the ability to consume more minimally processed foods that meet your needs. So some of the steps, again, everybody could be different in their meal prep, but the classic meal prep steps are to look at your schedule for the week coming up, pick some recipes out. Steps 2 and 3 are kind of interchangeable together. So pick some recipes out, check your cabinets and fridge to see what you have available. I like to check that first, see what you have, see what you need to get rid of, and then also see what you're craving with the recipes to then negotiate what you're gonna buy, what you're gonna use up. Make a list, stick to that list, right? Because it's gonna prevent that random buying when we're at the store. And of course, after you go grocery shopping, try to prep what you can when you come home, just to save you time during the work week. So again, this is just a review for many of us. This is that Mediterranean diet pyramid. I like to use the Harvard USDA MyPlate, if not Canada's version of MyPlate. So I just figured I would interchange it. So in general, just to help drive home the point, with Harvard's plate that's different from that you've seen in the past from the Canadian version of this, is you're still seeing that about half the plate is a fruit or a vegetable, right? So if it's breakfast, you try to have a fruit at breakfast ideally. If it's lunch or dinner, try to have non-starchy vegetables, be that, main plant focus in your meal. Breakfast can also have vegetables too, though. For most of us, we want to aim for 2 to 3 fruits per day. So if you're getting a fruit at breakfast, say, and maybe a fruit or two as a snack, that's a wonderful place for that, right? Like a dessert or a snack or breakfast for fruit. And then where Harvard is different from the USDA version of MyPlate, they're all conveying the same meaning. So I try to show you different examples so you could see common themes of, what we're driving home in all these meal patterns. Is it shows 1/4, it says whole grains, but that could be whole grains in blue zones, that could be potatoes, that could be peas, that could be your starchy vegetables in general, or your beans. And then of course healthy protein, which could be, chicken, turkey, fish, tofu, tempeh, beef, lamb, etc. Right? It's just the frequency that those options come in. And of course, this is just a great way that if you're seeing your plate this way, when you're going grocery shopping, your grocery cart can also look this way. So you want to try to aim for half your grocery cart to be produce. About 1/4 could be a more complex starch, like a starchy vegetable, a bean, or a whole grain like brown rice, or whole grain bread like the Dave's Killer bread. And then of course 1/4 being the protein. You see a little bit of oil here on the top left. For us with blue zones, olive oil, olive oil, olive oil. And then of course, if we're going a little hot, of course, like grilling or you're putting that burner on high, greater than 275, avocado oil. And of course, what's different here with Harvard's plate is they highlight water versus dairy, right? Our dairy, from like a blue zone standpoint, if you do tolerate dairy, is more so like a low fat or non-fat, say cottage cheese, Greek yogurt, or say like a hard cheese, like a Locatelli or a Romano, for example. But milk in general, we're going to try to aim for like an almond milk or unsweetened coconut or flax milk. Picking your recipes for blue zones, we do a lot of that for you guys, which is great. That helps to take some of the labor away. And of course, you could keep pulling from that recipe repertoire from the past 30 days. But these are just some other resources. And a lot of these are completely complimentary. I love the Real Food Dietitians. They also have a wonderful cookbook out and an Instagram. Sometimes I just swipe through there when I'm making my grocery list. It depends what calls to me. Sometimes I'm using recipes in the packet or a cookbook I have or inspiration I see online. It's good to get variety, but to know what is your best options. If you're working with a dietitian one-on-one, you could always send that their way and have them look it over too. But it's good to know options that are out there. These are some easy to prepare foods just to make meal prep and maintaining a nourishing kitchen more accessible. So hard-boiled eggs, of course you can get them pre-boiled just to help speed things up. Grilled chicken, ground turkey, burgers are great to keep in the freezer, like a frozen turkey burger. I also love getting the Amy Lou chicken meatballs for really busy nights to put with, say, a chickpea pasta or spaghetti squash and a side of some broccoli. Uh, we can buy the pre-prepared or pre-cut veggies when it's a really busy week, or when you first get it in, try to chop it up and organize it in the fridge. So it's really easy to pull from during the work week. You can rinse and strain a few cans of beans and to assemble into a 3-bean salad to get ahead for the week. Maybe cook up some quinoa or brown rice, or get the 1-minute cups to just optimize your time during the work week so that when the time comes to assemble, it's easy. You can make a protein bowl, a salad, a sandwich, a stir fry, because the bulk of everything for the most part is cut and prepared, and you really just need to assemble and heat depending on what you're making at that point. These are just some example quick breakfasts. Some of you guys saw different flavors or versions of these in the Blue Zones packets. So overnight oats, especially when you add a little protein powder to it, veggie egg muffins, or oatmeal bakes you could always do, where you mix together, say, oats, protein powder, fruit, a nut or a seed butter, baking soda, a little salt, eggs, almond milks, and you mix it together and you just bake it in a Pyrex dish. It's really easy and you can cut from it like cake almost. It's really great. Greek yogurt parfaits are wonderful, or like a cottage cheese parfait. Protein toast people will do, where you cook the egg, like almost like an egg in a basket in the toast. Or you can make it like a cottage cheese cheesecake, and you mix cottage cheese with maybe a hint of some honey, and blend it a little together. Pat down the center of the toast, pour that in, maybe sprinkle some berries, toast in the oven or the toaster really quickly, and now you have an easy cottage cheese protein toast. You could do the same with regard to a poached egg and guacamole on toast too, with all sorts of different veggie toppings. Egg sandwiches or egg burritos, you can make a bunch of those in bulk and freeze as well. So there's a bunch of ideas we could do for breakfast just to make ahead and help hold you over for the week. Sometimes you can make in portions of 2 to 3. So maybe the first half of the week you do like the egg sandwich, and then the second half of the week you make 2 to 3 portions of, say, the chia pudding. Of course, like we said, check our cabinets. So keeping easy things on hand and just checking with your pantry staples can help to save you a lot of time. Always keep olive oil on hand, your seasonings, nuts, seeds, dry pastas, whether it's a chickpea pasta, cans of beans, your stocks, like a bone broth, you could always keep on hand. But just trying to make sure you keep a stocked kitchen is the first battle. This is a template we could use to make a list from, or you could take the similar template to what we built for the packets, the recipe packets. These are just example pantry staples. We're not saying have everything on this list, but maybe, a few things from each section, right? So from the nuts or seed section, I'm not going to want to stock 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different types of options. That would be expensive and then would go rancid before I got to eat them. But maybe I'd pick, 2 or 3 smaller portioned options, or of course a couple trail mixes. So I would say about at least 2 or 3 from each section could be a good place to start. Going grocery shopping. If it is a really busy week, I do tell individuals something is better than nothing, to maybe consider Instacart or grocery delivery if it means not getting the groceries in and maybe being more apt to order out or eat out. However, if we can go, it's most important to plan ahead anything that you want to do is if you want to do something enough, you will make time for it, is the mindset that I'm always under. So I understand that time is thin for many, but saying that you got to make getting food for you a priority. If we're not focusing on those bare necessities like sleep and basic nourishment and mental well-being, what are we doing, right? So make time to go. Personally, I love people, but I'm just not a big crowd person. So the weekends is like Trader Joe's on a Sunday morning actually scares me. So even though all the new stock stuff is great. So maybe waiting till they restock after the weekend for like a Tuesday after work, right? When it's a little calmer. And especially if you're the type of person that likes to read different labels and take your time and look at things and you feel uncomfortable with lots of people around you, you feel like, this is New York, you're taking up space, people need to be moving and going. Put yourself in the best situation that you're not going during a very high volume time. Or Instacart is wonderful, and same with the Whole Foods app, just for looking at items, right? So if you were trying to make a grocery list so you could just be in and out of there really quickly and not have to read the labels while you're in the store, and maybe your only time is the weekends and you do get antsy with all these people buzzing around you and you want to have time to read the labels, look online first. Instacart is getting much better with a lot of the stores. Some stores, I notice Aldi and Lidl, are getting much better from when they first started with it. Stop and Shop used to have nothing. Now they have a lot more stuff on there. So even if you're not ordering from Instacart, you can look at the label and get like the ingredients and the nutrition facts, at least from it, to make your time a little more efficient when you're in the store. Check in with the circular, whether it's online or the printed version. Use the card, save money where we can, right? Bulk shop, Costco, BJ's is wonderful for that. Sam's Club. Buy only what you plan to eat. Avoid going when hungry. That's often the classic, right? Think color and variety in your cart. So just as I said, make half your half your cart produce, 1/4 the protein, 1/4 the starch, and then a smidge of fat, just like your plate. Just like your plate, your cart should have a lot of color too. So enjoy this time of year. Berries are in season, cherries are in season. We're about to hit watermelon season. The produce is blooming. Enjoy the fruit right now. Enjoy the vegetables. If you haven't signed up for a CSA, there's a ton on Long Island. Look into them. It's a great way to get local produce and to help sponsor a farmer or a farm on Long Island. And also, if the CSA is a little laborious for us this year, consider the farmers markets. Sangley is all over the place. They are a wonderful out east farm that you see at most farmers markets. And they also host classes on their property now. And you could always visit when you're out in the North Fork. Market style shopping is very big in blue zones. So you want to think old world, walking to and from work. You walk through the market, you look at what's fresh, you smell what the butcher brought in, you see what the fisherman's brought in, you see what the farmers bring to market, and you grab what calls to the eye. Is very market style. So you're getting fresh that day and then cooking it that night. Try to mimic that to the best of your abilities. Look at the frequency you have realistically to go to the store. If you can go multiple times a week, great. If you can't, that's okay. Try to mimic it in terms of the farmer's market or getting to know the women and men that work up at the butcher area of the grocery store or in the bakery area, and get to know the person who cuts the loaves of bread that you buy, or get to know the people during in the fish section. Try to mimic that to the best of our abilities. Try to learn where your produce and where your food is coming from. If it means I get all my groceries for the most part from Stop and Shop, but maybe I go to the local butcher in town to get my meats or certain things. Why it matters: if it's fresher, it's more nutrient rich, higher bioavailability. It encourages more intuitive eating, that connection with sight and smell and relationship with our food. There's a greater appreciation that comes with it as well. So if I know where it's coming from and I know it's more rare, I'm less likely to eat it really quickly and then maybe not taste it, right? That can sometimes happen with many of us. And of course, it just supports our local community, and that's what Blue Zones is about. One of the goals to implement, though, like we said, is to try to pick 1 to 2 seasonal veggies to try to implement, try to get involved with a local CSA or visit a local farm or to chat with local vendors. You could also consider walking or biking your local main street based on what's safe for you in your local town. Next, of course, after getting the groceries is getting cooking. So like we said, prep as much as we can in advance. These are just some examples that can help speed it up during the work week. This is a nice cheat sheet that if you guys want to take a minute to reflect upon and compare it to your current fridge and see if you need to update how you have your shelves aligned. This could just be a great tool when doing kitchen organizing as needed. I love getting some good ideas from different apps like Pinterest or LTK just to see different space saving ideas that I could try to visualize and apply in my kitchen. So these are just some examples that are out there. We do like to recommend the glass Tupperware as when you go to heat it, less of that, well, glass isn't going to break down like plastic would into the food, and the plastic is viewed as a xenoestrogen, which can impact hormone health, right? So just take a look at this. Some tips and tricks to get it done faster is to multitask at your level of comfort. So sometimes if I'm boiling water to make pasta, I could easily be, sauteing something at the same time. Or if I'm going to be popping, chicken to bake into the oven, I could also, bake the salmon at the same time too and save that chicken for meal prep later in the week and to have that salmon more fresh. When you are cooking, to remember the concept called mise en place, which is a French culinary term more so for putting in place or everything in its place. Kind of how we were saying that everything should have a home in the kitchen, that we have, this is our spot where we keep the pasta, this is the spot where we keep our fruit. Of course, everything in its place, meaning all the silverware has a home, the dishes have a home, and all the appliances have a home. Getting organized makes it fun and easy because if you're not wasting time looking for things, it feels like a much more efficient and smoother, carefree process. And of course, make it fun. You could have a chop challenge with a loved one, or, look for food items that you have in your cabinet that you might be sitting there for a while that you got to use up, that you have to get creative with. There's different websites like Supercook where you could plug in what ingredients you have and it spits out recipes for you. It's not always dietitian approved, so you have to use a different nutritional efficacy. But of course, that's a great tool to be aware of. And that's called supercook.com. Getting things pre-prepared. Of course, this is Blue Zones, right? So we want to try to have it as minimally processed as possible, but we also want to think in terms of reality. If I don't have what I need on hand, and if I know realistically this week it's just maybe I don't have time to cook the protein, or maybe I'm not gonna have time to cook the vegetables. All right, I'll get the cauliflower rice, I'll get the frozen veggies. In the grand scheme, I'm still getting vegetables in, right? And depending on the time of year, the frozen could actually be a better option. Right now, though, we're very blessed. We're in a very seasonal produce fertile time of year. Of course, the tuna, right? You can get the canned tuna for a really busy week. You can get the frozen turkey or chicken burgers. Aldi has a lot of really quick prepared meals, the Kevin's meals, and also Costco will have a lot of those family style, like fajita platter meals, that having something like that is better than, say, buying, say, fast food, right? So it just depends on what the person is getting. So if we're used to running home from hockey practice and getting McDonald's for the family, maybe getting the platter from Costco, the fajita platter is a little bit better, right? Or for us, if you're like, okay, I'm having a busier week, I want to normally roast my own chicken each week. I'll just get the rotisserie chicken. I'll get rid of the skin, cut that up, and make like a nice sandwich or salad out of that, right? So it's looking at objectively what your routine is and saying, how can I just optimize it a little bit more? Meal prep delivery services, again, like we were saying, Blue Zones is as much home prepped as we can, but sometimes these are a better midway point versus buying other options out. So these are just good to be aware of. The common theme with all the meal prep services, especially the big three on Long Island, is Hummus Fit, Redefine Meals, and Healthy Meals Direct. In a really busy pinch, they can be great. My only qualm is really like the vegetables are can be very on the lower side, and especially if you're someone who has to really watch sodium, of course it's going to be on the higher side there. So they're great to put like a side salad with, or a side of sauteed vegetables, or a veggie minestrone and some bone broth maybe, on the side with these meals to really boost up the veggies. And just to note, some of them could be portioned to an adult male who is going to and from the gym. So it's just seeing that some of these have different, portion sizes, and to really read the label before dining, or to listen to your personal hunger fullness cues and eat slow and sit down when you are having them. Like we were saying earlier, make cooking fun, but also part of Blue Zones is inviting community into your home for what you feel most comfortable with, right? So it could be having a potluck, or inviting friends over for like a chop challenge, or a paint and sip night in the backyard where you're, maybe painting like a nice wine glass and having a beautiful crudité in the backyard and just talking and catching up, maybe having a fire or something, roasting some marshmallows, having some fruit. I've been seeing these brie bakes lately where people take a cast iron skillet almost over a fire with some brie and some pomegranate seeds and figs and different fruits that they'll char up. You can get a lot of inspiration off Pinterest, of course, too. But in making food fun, you can also, play music, play a podcast, cook with a movie in the background, right? Like play some Julie and Julia while you try to cook a recipe from The Joy of Cooking. Just make it fun, right? Cook a Blue Zones recipe and play the Blue Zones in the background, or Salt, Fat, Heat, Acid, which is another wonderful culinary documentary on Netflix if you got through Blue Zones and you want something new. Invite friends over for dinner or barbecue. And of course, always keep open to new interactions and friends. Social connection and longevity can help, like we were saying, reduce depression, dementia, and early death. Loneliness can be associated with a 15-year difference in our longevity. Sharing meals, belonging. When we are sharing meals, we're taking a moment to talk and sip and digest and maybe discuss our plate, and also pass down values of and role modeling the conception, or not the consumption of different foods for younger children. But it creates a time and a space for you guys to wind down and downshift as well within the concept of Blue Zones. Blue Zones also, from a diet standpoint, touches upon volumetrics. So volumetrics is a strategy where the person is taking in a higher volume food spatially. So usually it's a higher fiber, higher water-based food. And because we're taking that in, it takes up more space in the gut or the stomach that you feel more full. But it's typically also lower in calorie. So think lettuce. Lettuce can take up a lot of space in the stomach and make you feel fuller, but really not a lot of calories. So in Okinawa, Japan, you'll see in the documentary, they're eating these large stir fries, but they're big meal, spatially, volume-wise, but really, what is it? Lean chicken, a little bit of sesame oil, olive oil, some spices, tons of vegetables. And vegetables we can eat a large portion of, as long as it agrees with our bellies and our bodies adjusted to that fiber amount. For some, we have to build up that fiber gradually and keep water intake up while we're keeping fiber up, just to help that body move it along and get adjusted to that fiber. But that's a great Blue Zone strategy that helps with maintaining a healthy body composition as we do age. So focusing in on fruits, veggies, broths, like bone broth is really predominant in the volumetric space, but so is vegetable broth. Even though it's not high in protein, there are still benefits, and it is a water-based food with flavor. Legumes somewhat falls into this space. I don't really agree fully with that. It is still a little bit denser of a food, but comparatively to other grains, yes, because it's a higher fiber food, but it's not really a water-based food. So just to be aware of that. Um, and so ways you can implement is, of course, having like a side salad before a meal, or having a veggie minestrone before a meal, or like when you go out to different sushi restaurants, you have the salad and the miso soup. That is a very volumetric premise, and it starts to make you feel full, but on what, less than almost 100 calories, depending on how much dressing we have on there, and how much tofu's in there too in the miso soup. Other foods, though, that we didn't touch upon as a volume food: chia pudding, pickles, salsa, popcorn, steamed edamame, just to name a few. So we've been going into the family meal table a bunch in the past couple weeks. So we know and have already gone through a lot of the benefits of that. Your challenge, though, is, if it's not already, create a dedicated space in your household. In the past, when I've had my table in college, it was piled up with, magazines and papers and stuff when all of us were young. But it is truly an important space. Set the table like old school, set the napkins, set the silverware, maybe put some flowers on the table or a candle of some kind, and make it a space that you can relax. And there's no phones at the table and no screens, maybe a little music or something just to help unwind. And try to sit with your family or loved ones, for at least, or it could just be on the phone, maybe FaceTiming another loved one while they eat. 3 times a week, 20 minutes could be a good place to be. But if we're starting at zero, one time a week could be great. Pick a day, pick a time with somebody. This is called the raisin meditation. I'm gonna put this here. You have the slides in your module 4, but this is also something that you could do with loved ones at the table. It could be a little funny. I put the link here, but you could also just Google raisin meditation. There's a ton of videos. This is one I like by Berkeley, but it's about taking almost like 5 minutes to take a bite of a raisin. Or if you're like me and don't like raisins, you could do a mini peppermint patty, because there's a lot of layers to that, where you're looking at, what does the food look like? What does it smell like? What's the texture? Right? A raisin is great for the texture. Same with a mini peppermint patty, because at first it's smooth and then the chocolate melts, and then you have the peppermint that starts to show up, and you're taking in the smell, the different mouth feel, and essentially it's kind of teaching us to slow down and take methodical bites of our food, and to really stay present with our senses when we're eating. As sometimes in this busy New York minute, we might have a tendency to maybe not taste our food or to eat really quickly. So this is always just a fun little activity that you might get a couple Snickers with as well, with some family members if you do it. But a lot of these premises we talked about, some of them could seem very old school. So it's about making it work for you, right? Like we talked about the points system for the challenge, and that if the points and like doing all of that at once is a lot, and you really want to do this and you want to implement it slowly and surely, that's awesome, right? So maybe pick out 2 things from this presentation that you can see yourself doing in a matter of, say, a week, and then hold yourself to it, right? Like check in with it, write it in the spreadsheet, because that spreadsheet is really there for just self accountability and awareness. I set a goal. Now, am I following through on that goal? Am I keeping promises to myself? Because at the end of the day, dietitians, our doctors, our loved ones, we're just facilitators. We can help to facilitate or help to motivate, but the person has to do it. The person has to want to do it, right? You can lead a horse to water, but the horse has to drink, right? So no one can make me do things for myself, right? So I have to check in with myself. Maybe I have to tell a loved one or my dietitian, like, hey, these are my 2 goals. Ask me next week how I did with those goals. But that's to build up the skill of being self accountable in this realm, right? So part of the spreadsheet is a tool to help us get to that point with our goal setting in regard to our lifestyle habits. So a foundation is maybe meal prep together on Sundays. I'm going to set a goal to just meal prep with a loved one on Sundays. And the other could be to do a fridge inventory once a week. Another way to start gradually implementing this like market style of eating is to, maybe go to the farmer's market once a month or to buy in season or as local as I can when I am at Stop and Shop or ShopRite or Lidl or Uncle Giuseppe's or wherever I go grocery shopping. And with that whole create a de-stressing space or a workout space, anywhere can be that though. So it's just choosing to make the intention to, maybe I meditate, when I come home from work in my car, or I'm gonna try to put a yoga mat out and stretch in the afternoon when I get home from work. But picking 1 to 2 of these ideas and then gradually implementing them and then checking in with ourselves, how we're doing in achieving those goals in about, say, a week or 2. Again, I know I keep, reminding everybody, but if you haven't done so already and you're really interested, check out the Blue Zones documentary on Netflix. It can be a really good reinforcer. There's some other books as well that they've put out in terms of different recipe books, and of course the challenge book with this, which this whole platform is based off of. Those are at the front desk at Elevation. You guys could take a peek at them when you're there, or borrow them. That's not a problem. And then, of course, contact us with any questions, especially personal questions. I am super appreciative to anybody who puts any questions in the group chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you guys for having done so. And of course, I want to keep encouraging that. So please put it out there, contact us, don't be a stranger. And thank you for your time, especially if you came live tonight or you're viewing this recording after. Thank you for your time and thank you for showing up for you too. Does anyone have questions? I'm going to check the chat. Okay.
Can I
This
ask
is
a question about the in-body scan?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So if after you do that, who helps you interpret it? Because I've seen some like reports from them and I don't know what it means.
Oh, yeah, you could send that over. Usually, the interpretation will do one-on-one, but absolutely we could usually get some one-on-one with nutrition counseling sessions, so it's easy with challenges that gets missed. So you could always send that to me and I'll type you up a write-up of what that means.
Thank you.
Of course, of course. And next week too, we're gonna do some closing out of the challenge, like housekeeping stuff. So I also will put that information out there for everybody regarding the InBody. But say you're going on vacation, say not this week, next week, right after the challenge ends, and you need to get your InBody in early, let us know. You could definitely come in early for that as well. And then I'll be putting this recording out. And again, thank you for your time, guys, and have a good night and have a good dinner if you haven't eaten yet.